Hello Linux lovers, my name's Wimpy, welcome to my world. Today we're going to be getting Retro Home back on track. We were working on that a couple of days ago, migrating it to Ubuntu 22.04. There were some regressions. I fixed some of those, I'll explain what's going on, and then we're going to fix a few more things to get us to the point where we've got a good stable platform to develop and iterate on in order to get to the good stuff, which is doing these case enablement bits and pieces. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, this was originally streamed live on twitch.tv/Wimpy's World. Please come and give us a follow over there on Twitch if you want to join in these sessions interactively. And if you're watching on Twitch, then give us a follow so that you get notified about these things when they go live. So, last stream, so that was Monday. A lot of the uplifting to 22.04 went well, although we definitely bumped into some rough edges. I've straightened some of that out. There's a few bits which still need a little bit of massaging in order to get them fixed up nicely. So we'll be cracking on with that today. Hopefully by the end of today, have the thing building an image which is usable. May not have like all of where we were before, but that may be for deliberate reasons, which I'll get to. But hopefully it will be a working platform, and then we can really start pushing forwards with like turning this into sort of the closer to the finished article. Hello, good morning, Henrik, and good morning, Paul. Welcome back, both of you. How are you doing today? I've already had my iced coffee this morning, but a mug of tea here now. Right then, let's take a look at where we are. Where should we start with this? So let's look at some of what's being done. So here's the project here on GitHub. I've done a couple of things. I've created a bunch of issues to sort of track tasks that need doing. And if we let's just take a look at some of the closed issues, because some of these are relevant. So I've said fix the swap initialization. I thought I'd fix that, although it's partially fixed, so we'll be properly fixing that today. The deb-get is kind of integrated into this. Again, it's a little bit broken, so we'll go back and get that properly working. The GNOME Flashback is the micro desktop that I've implemented. It's kind of a development tool for me at the moment, but I think for the versions of Retro Home that target sort of set-top box cases as opposed to handhelds, will it continue to include that little miniature desktop. It's quite useful. And we have fixed some of the issues around LightDM, and I'll explain sort of all of that as we go. And then we've got a few outstanding issues, some of which we'll investigate further today and see how many of these are viable. This piece here, I've got some information on this, so we'll update this. We'll investigate F2fs as a potential option and see whether that's something we can do. Maybe we'll have a go with Pipewire. We'll see how we get on. So those are sort of some of the things we can take a look at. There's been a number of commits, not just by me. Takov has also been working on this, so he's put a bunch of notes in the code for the different cases that we're going to target and what needs doing in terms of the enablement of those cases. So we're all in sync. So you can see here some of my fixes to get things working properly, or at least some of the way there. Good morning. Oh, hello, this sounds very interesting. So it says here, Henrik, who goes by the Wizard here, he says, let me just bring this up. First morning with a stream deck, so doing great, fantastic. So that literally arrived today, did it? I'll be interested to hear your thoughts in Discord about that. I haven't had my email to ask me if I want to proceed with my purchase yet. I've heard my nan used to do this, Paul. My nan used to put jam in her tea. Yeah, I'm familiar with this. I always thought that was a London thing, but there you go. Oh, Russia, from Russia originally, is it? How interesting. Okay. Hey, Luke, how you doing? Good to see you again. Peanut butter in your coffee. Oh my gosh, all these crazy ideas for your beverages. Well, there we go. Right then, so I've made some improvements. What we'll do is we're going to sort of take a look at the script. I'm going to explain like the big problem. So the big problem we had at the end of the last stream is I was absolutely flummoxed as to why the X sessions weren't being started by the display manager. It turns out there was two things at play there. The first was, if I just come over to the code, the first was if I just go and find LightDM. So we used LightDM as the display manager. I had originally used Slick Greeter, which is one of the Greeter front ends for LightDM, which is sort of forked and adapted from the Unity Greeter. I went poking around, so on your own system, if you've got something running with LightDM, like Ubuntu Mate does, for example, there is var log LightDM, and there's a bunch of log files in here. And I went poking around in here on the Raspberry Pi and found out that Slick Greeter had become brain dead. And it couldn't pick up any of the X sessions at all, and I was very confused as to why that was. And I added a bunch of additional configuration to tell it, here are all of the things, and it just refused to do anything. So anyway, I swapped out Slick Greeter on the Pi with LightDM GTK Greeter. This is what Ubuntu Mate used to use back in the day, and what Ubuntu uses as its greeter. And as soon as I did that, everything, normality was restored. So I thought, fine, what we'll do then, the greeter is just an implementation detail. It's not critical to the sort of functioning of the device. If LightDM GTK greeter is reliable, we will use that. So that was the first change that I've made. And that kind of got things back on a much better footing. And then the other thing I discovered was we have these files which will soon be packaged up as debs, but we have these files which get injected into the build process. And this one here is the X session file for Retro Home itself. And I was a bit confused as to why the Retro Home thing wasn't showing up. It turned out, I don't quite know how this had happened, but the permissions on this file were incorrect. And so it simply wasn't being picked up at all. So that was a simple permissions change. And now the micro desktop, which is operated with GNOME Flashback, appears. And so does also the Retro Home option. So that was all good. That was like a significant step forward. And then what I did was I went through and did some of the work to add in the this additional package here for Yaru theme Unity. This comes from work that I did in the Yaru theme for the 2204 release, and that package includes all of the Yaru icons for panels, because we're using a traditional panel in our micro desktop. So with that available and some changes to the schema overrides, I've been able to integrate a current version of Yaru into the micro desktop, so it just looks a little bit more cohesive and what have you. So there was a bunch of cleanups and thing boots, and it works. Now the other thing that threw me for a loop, which I kind of ran into on the last stream, and I absolutely cannot explain. I'm very, very confused. I will just get one. I am going to suspect that when I bought these, is this gonna focus? It's not, is it? Well, this is obviously it's a micro SD card, and I've got 3 of these here. And for whatever reason, whenever I put an image of a Raspberry Pi thing on these cards, they either don't boot or they fail to recognize the file systems. So I think I may have got some fake SD cards, and I'll have to investigate further. I mean, it was months and months ago, so I don't think I've got any recourse. But all 3 of them behave the same way. They just fail to recognize the file system when it boots the Pi, and I can put the exact same image on the other cards that I have available here, and it works fine. But that threw me for a loop because I kept thinking that my build scripts were busted for some reason. I spent far too long investigating bootloader configurations and file system configurations. So that was a bloody great big waste of time. But at least I know now that those are iffy cards, and I'll just ignore them. So Nocturnal Astro says they have honey in their coffee. That sounds very agreeable. Yeah, I like the sound of that. And honey and tea. Hey, King Egypt, welcome back. How you doing? So I love how that we start our mornings together, and there's a little conversation about, you know, the tea, coffee, and interesting ways we're improving our tea and our first tea and coffee of the day. So I do have an image that I could flash and boot. So maybe what I'll do is I'll do that. We can see where we are, and the advantage of this now is that with so much more of the stuff working, it's actually easy to go and iterate on the device and start to improve things. So we'll start by doing that. Let's bring up this, and we'll put the card reader in up there. We'll bring this down here, and we'll go to our builds. So here is an image I built earlier, and we'll just write that out to disk. Hello, good morning, Yannick. How are you doing?
Thank you for the follow, usernamer.
Hello, usernamer. Thanks for the follow and welcome to the stream. So let's just whack this out onto a card that has proven to be reliable. Like I say, it's just this one brand. I think I just must have got scammed with a fake batch. Anyway, let's do this thing. So let's get this one written out. And what I'm going to look at here is I'm going to highlight some of the things that are a bit broken, and then we're going to go into the build script, fix some of those broken bits, and then we'll take a look at a couple of there's a hardware enablement. It's not an issue, it's just a fact that I need to clarify in the code and in a GitHub issue, so that I have that documented, so I don't again waste some time trying to fix a problem that I don't have, which is something else that I did, and I'll get into that, but it's to do with the way the fake KMS driver works in conjunction with forcing the sound device on the Pi to output to ULSA and HDMI concurrently. And that's something that Ludo requires, because it uses ULSA as the sound library. So that was something I found, and I want to investigate whether F2fs is going to be feasible, because I think it may not be, but we'll actually do the research and figure that out today. So we've got our card written out, so let's eject that. Let's close this. Pull that out. So we'll now stuff this SD card in the front of the Raspberry Pi. We'll get the capture card up and we'll turn the Pi on, and hopefully it should boot. Well, the bootloader's come up at least. That's what that nice little rainbow screen means. That's always a good start. And I've just brought up my... So whilst this is booting, I've got this second keyboard and mouse which is on a wireless dongle to the Pi. So this is how I do this. Okay, so what you can see on the screen very briefly there, that was the automatic file system expansion. So hello TACOP, how you doing? What have you missed? Nothing that you don't know about. I've just outlined what the problems were at the end of the last stream, some of what's been fixed, and then we're now just going to dive into demonstrating where some of the bugs still exist and what we're going to look at next. So the first good thing is that this is the LightDM GTK greeter, which is working. And if I go up here, this is where you can choose your session, and we have the option of our desktop or retro home. So both these issues are now resolved. However, this is not themed correctly, even though I have dropped the appropriate configuration files in to configure it. It doesn't seem to be picking up some of those changes. It's picked up some because like the GTK theme is correct, and the bar at the top here, the panel is correct, but the background isn't set. I don't know why that is. Maybe we'll try and figure that one out today. It could be maybe it doesn't support PNGs or whatever I'm trying to get it to use, but we'll find out. We'll figure it out. So I'm just going to log in. This should be the micro desktop. So the default username is Ludo, because that's the app that our thing runs, and the password is retro. And the first thing to point out here is this is now using the modern Yaru theming, including these panel icons, which I've now added, so these all look a little bit nicer. And when we open up something like the home directory, this is using the Yaru red variant. That's hard coded in the build script, and it just sort of matches the color scheme of the logo for Retro Home. So that's, you know, a nice little bit. Now, something else that I've gone ahead and done is I have included Vivaldi at the moment, and that's because it turned out having a browser handy on this whilst I was sort of searching for inquiries as to why certain things weren't working looked good. So it was very helpful, so I've included this. We've got this warning here. We'll maybe have a look at that at some future date. But I may do. I need to speak to Vivaldi to find out if it's okay for me to redistribute Vivaldi in these images or not. I'm hoping it will be fine because I like their browser. And Yannick makes the observation that I need to use the other mouse. That the pink looks suspiciously like Quick GUI pink. It's close, but it's not the same. The color scheme comes from the color of the Ludo icon, which is the front end we're using for all of the retro emulation. So yes, it's similar, but it is slightly different, and that's the origin of that particular pink. And I'm quite okay with all these, you know, interesting colours in projects because it makes change from all the sea of blue logos. I'm glad you'll allow it, Yannick. Right then, so so far so good. We've got a fairly decent experience here. So let's just put that second mouse out of the way. We'll just take a look and remind.
Thank you for the follow, Sparky Geek.
Hey, Sparky Geek. Hello, how are you? Huh. Fantastic. Thanks for stopping by. I assume this is the Sparky Geek I know. If it is, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. So the sort of the miniature desktop OS that we have here, it is the very same. Hello, hello, how are you doing? Lovely to see you again. So this is our micro OS and this desktop environment, and this really serves as like a development platform whilst I'm iterating. But what I'm going to do is leave this in the non-handheld versions of this retro games emulation stuff, because actually having an archive manager and transmission and a browser and some of these other tools, it turns out it's quite handy for getting ROMs onto the device in order to play the games, so it's going to stick around. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that isn't quite working yet. So if we just spark up the terminal, if we just run free, we can see that swap is not properly enabled. So we're going to fix that. That's definitely something we want to look at. And also I have integrated deb-get, but deb-get is not properly brought up. So good morning, Esme, how you doing? That was Esme who was flaming across the screen there. So deb-get is available, but it needs to be properly initialized into the platform, and deb-get is actually being used in the build script now in order to install Ludo and Vivaldi, and that's why I'm now a little bit more comfortable in making images that have Vivaldi integrated, because at least with deb-get you have the option now, whoops, if I can actually type, to do updates for those packages that are installed from outside of the official app repositories. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with that now. So you can see the Vivaldi repository is enabled by default in order to keep the browser up to date, but also when it runs off the end of the standard updates, what it will do now is it will actually go out and look, and it should, and I think I'm just testing this because I think this is where the integration may be a little bit broken. It should go and see if, yeah, so now it's checking Ludo, because Ludo comes from a GitHub releases page. But what it should have done here is actually detected deb-get itself, and it didn't, and that needs fixing. So that's identified two fairly simple problems to solve, so we'll actually go and fix those now. So the swap related issue, I'm just going to move these two keyboards to the side so I don't keep typing on the wrong one. Right. So the swap related issue should be fairly simple to sort out. I am in the right. There we go. So I think the issue is this. I don't think that using system control to enable these two units is actually the right way to do it. So what we'll be doing is dropping out both of those, and from the image building for Ubuntu Mate, it actually does it a little bit differently. In that after it drops them in, it simply creates these symlinks manually, and this is also how Live CD rootfs does it. So we will do this. So that will be correct, and that should be correct now. So we'll enable both of those. So that let's just see which stage is this in. This is in the kernel, I think. So this is stage 4. So we'll need to run from stage 4 to rebuild the image. So let's just enable stage 4. And then the other thing we said we were going to look at was deb-get itself. Oh boy, that's right in the very beginning. Let's do it the right way then. In the right place. So here we do these two things. So what we'll actually do is this. Deb-get is from Bootstrap itself. So I'm going to pull in a version of deb-get directly, and then I'm going to use deb-get to install itself. But actually what we need to do here is it will need curl to actually work correctly, and this is part of the reason why it's not correctly bringing itself up. So we'll do that in order to correctly bring up the thing, and this is in the Ludo step. So what I will do is, I don't want to go back and rebuild from stage 2 because this is quite a lengthy process. There's quite a lot of stuff that gets installed here and then consequently here. So I know that this is the right fix, and we can actually manually demonstrate that. So what we'll do is over here we'll simulate this. We'll use deb-get to install deb-get. In fact, I wonder if this will work. I'm curious actually. Let's see. Deb-get. Okay, that did work. Okay, so and then that would pull in the other dependencies, which should also then enable unattended upgrades, which will ensure that these devices always get the security updates. Yeah, so Paul says he does love some Vivaldi. I have to agree. I use it quite regularly at home. So my default browser is Brave, but I really quite like Vivaldi, and I could see myself switching to Vivaldi. So yeah, I like it a lot. And the fact that they make versions of their browser for 32-bit and 64-bit ARM that work on Ubuntu for Raspberry Pi and Raspberry Pi OS is fantastic. So that's sort of simulated bringing up deb-get. So let's go back to our code browser here. So that should be fine now. So I think maybe we'll rebuild that image and see if swap comes up correctly. And if it does, then we'll dive into looking into a little bit of hardware stuff. So I see there's some other questions here. Let's have a look. So King Egypt says, curious why there's all the Vivaldi love for someone who's never tried it. Like most of the alternative browsers, they're all sort of derived from Chromium, so you kind of get that performance and support, compatibility. And this is one of the reasons why I don't use Firefox, because it's slow, frankly. And I don't use, and I don't want to use Chrome or Chromium because Google's influence has just encroached too far there. So I like Brave because it gives me that sort of compatible Chrome experience without all of the Google services being integrated. I use Microsoft Edge for all of my work-related stuff, again, for similar reasons. It's a compatible fast browser. And Vivaldi, again, same, compatible fast. It's got a unique UI. It's got a bunch of interesting features. They're all worth looking at, frankly. They're all worth looking at. So, but I like Vivaldi on the Pi because they actually produce compatible builds for the Pi. So yeah, Adsa is pointing out some of what I've just said. Yeah. Do not confirm Vivaldi is more secure than Chrome. Yeah, so I'm not making any claims about the security. I do see all of these Chromium-based browsers update within sort of 48 hours of one another when a new Chromium release comes out. Yeah, I haven't investigated the security stance of these things. Yes, and Esme, that's right. Vivaldi does indeed have a pretty mail app, and I think that's because Vivaldi was derived from Opera, the Opera team. Some of the Opera team that created Vivaldi, and Opera was a browser that had all of that, stuff integrated and what have you. Mail services and things like that. So, Ala, if I've got that right, crikey, that's a tricky one, says, I'd rather take the Google services than Brave's built-in crypto garbage. I see people talking about Brave's crypto stuff. It's literally a tick box in the settings to say, I don't want that. And it all just goes away, which is what I do. So I wouldn't worry about the crypto garbage. One of the things I really like about Brave is the way that it can sync peer-to-peer my browser settings to all of the devices that I use Brave on, which includes my phones and my tablets. And then I can also cherry pick tabs from different machines to open on whichever device I'm at. So I really like that peer-to-peer syncing as opposed to having all of my browser settings synchronized to some, central place. So don't believe the crypto garbage about Brave. It is literally a single tick box to turn that stuff off, and it's not hidden. It's very, very front and center. It's easy to find. Yes, and for some people, I just like the Google integration. Yeah, I just try to break things up. I do log into Google accounts with Brave, but the ad blocking and the tracker blocking and what have you in Brave is very comprehensive, and it's one of the reasons why I switched to iPhone, to break up that whole tracking, and everything's just minimize the fingerprinting, by using different services and different devices just to sort of break up that fingerprinting that goes on. So where was I? I've already forgotten. Yeah, and Yannick says that he uses Microsoft Edge because it just works fantastically everywhere. It does work very well. It does work very well. Like I say, I use Edge for all of my work-related stuff. Right, where were we? Sparky Geek, thank you. Rerun to see if swap's working. So that's what we're going to do. So we were down here. We're going to run from stage 4. So let's do that thing. So we're just going to run for the bog standard Raspberry Pi. We're not getting into the deep case enablement stuff just yet. So this will take a little bit of time because the kernel installations have to happen, but this build system does cache the previous build stages, so it at least we don't have to bootstrap the whole process. So we'll just let that whirl, and whilst that's happening, we will go over to GitHub and make some notes because I learned a thing and I really want to document it. So over here, I raised an issue because this was one of the things that I kind of bumped into on Monday when we were doing this, and it's investigate if the full KMS driver can be used. And the answer is no. As simple as that. So Ludo requires also, and in order to enable also and HDMI audio, we put a configuration into a file. So if we go to boot, and we'll open both of those because I think we'll need both today. just get rid of that. We do this. So let's go back here. cmd line.txt enables this. And then we need to state that which is not compatible with the full KMS driver. So this is what I've learned. So the full KMS driver can be used is not set, but this disables audio in Ludo in most cases. So that is the conclusion of that. So we're going to set that comment. We're going to set this as won't fix. Going to get rid of the enhancement. And then we'll close this issue. So we've documented it, and now what we'll do is come back here and find no, in here where we enable the fake KMS driver, we'll link to that issue. Ludo requires also. See below. There we go. So now we've just got a little bit of documentation here so that next time I come to this point, I know I've been here before and I've left a breadcrumb for myself to not, you know, get tied up in knots trying to fix something that is unfixable. So Yannick asks, would you save some time if you had a local cache of the archive? Yes, absolutely loads of time, which is why this build script does something rather nifty. If I go into the build script here, you'll see that it derives this apt cache IP, and up here in the sort of the main helper function, it says if apt cache ng is running on the build host, then it automatically injects the caching proxy into the apt configuration of the build system. So I have apt cache running, and consequently all of the packages that the build script pulls in. Let me just remind myself of the port. It was 3142. So if we go here, we can see here what the cache hit rate looks like, and as you can see, I have saved myself 6.3 gigabytes in needless transfers. So yeah, it does all of that. All you have to do is install apt cache, and that just gets automatically turned on by the build script. It's super. I loves it a lot. Yeah, it does. Apt cache ng has an HTML UI. It's looking a little bit dated, but it's serviceable. That was a question from Sparky Geek. There we go. So yes, apt cache ng. It's primitive, but it's functional, and you can even perform some administrative actions, which is like cleaning up dead cache references and stuff like that. So it's pretty useful. And in my opinion, AppCacher-ng is still the best way to provide like a caching proxy for apt. I really like it. So let's go and see how that build was getting on. We might have a... Oh, we do. We have an image. So let's turn off our Raspberry Pi. Just hard shut it down. Let's stick this image on a card. And the only thing I'm interested in here is, did this fix the swap? I hope it does, because if it doesn't, I'm really confused. And then if that works, we'll then go and do a little bit of investigation into F2fs and if that's an option, because it's something I discussed as I'd like to do, and then I was thinking about it, and then I thought, that might not work at all. So actually, what am I doing here? I don't want to do that at all. Let's do this. So let's stick this on the SD card. I need to get some more of these SD cards because they're quite fast, it turns out. Twice as quick as the other ones that I have, which saves a bit of time when you have to do this. Yes. Yes, so Henrik asks this question here. I will show you precisely what my recommendation is. So any recommendations for fast, large SD cards that actually work? Yes, yes, and yes. In fact, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, you'll find links in the description to the SD cards that I'm using. And how do I do this? I think I've got them in the panels on Twitch as well, and if they're not there, I'll add them afterwards. But if we go to the Ubuntu Mate website and go to the Raspberry Pi section, I think here, these are the ones that I recommend. These are excellent. This is the one that I'm currently using, that I said was, you know, the fastest that I've used. So you can get them in different capacities. I've currently got a 64 gig one here. I have a collection of 128 gig versions. These are the ones I recommend. This I'm going to update because whilst they appeared to work, I think I got a bad batch, so I can't trust that anymore. But this is a link to Amazon that will adapt to your region. But that's what I recommend. These are great. These have always been compatible, but they are half the speed of these ones. So these are the ones I like, and I'm going to get more of. There we go. Hopefully that answers your question. So we should have that done. So let's pop that out. And let's fire up the Pi. So plug this in. And let's see if we can get this to go. So what do we reckon? Is swap going to be enabled by default now? Should be. It should be. I really hope it is. Right then. So let's just check the questions there. So yes, welcome Buffer to the stream. Yes, indeed. They were SanDisks, the ones that I recommend there. Glad that was helpful, Henrik. I've also got a thing here. I think I can do bang kit in chat. There we go. So I have kit.co/Wimpy's World, and all of the Linux compatible stuff that I use for Raspberry Pi stuff, desktop stuff, audio stuff, streaming stuff is there. I'll check that later and make sure these SD cards are in there. But if they're not, then I'll update it, because I get asked that one about the SD cards quite often. And Yannick points out they've got 1 terabyte versions of those cards. They do. you will need a second mortgage. They're mega expensive. But they do have 1 terabyte versions, yes. Right then, so we'll log in. And then we'll see if everything's...
Buffer0x1.
Thanks very much for the follow, Buffer, and welcome to the stream.
Thank you for the follow, Stoker LCX.
Thanks very much. Welcome to the stream. Wow, have we... Yeah, no, we're getting that. Right, okay. Oh! Excellent. I forgot that I changed something else in the build script. So, that actually automatically brought us into Retro Home, which was something I was looking to fix today, and it turns out I've already accidentally fixed it, so that's good. So from here, I can navigate around the UI. So this is the UI for Retro Home, and we can see some of this stuff is working. It already knows that Conman's working and we've got a wired connection, and this is all the stuff that we can use to, you know, configure Retro Home. So all of that's working a treat, which is great. And if I press escape, let's, fingers crossed, this should drop us back to the display manager, and this should make it possible for me. Oh, okay, yeah, so it didn't auto log in, it was the default session, so that's fine. We'll take this to the next step in a bit. But then if I choose you and retro, I should get to the micro desktop now. Yes, okay, good. And now we'll just have a quick look and see swap is enabled. Billy Whiz, that's fantastic. Okay, so we're cooking on gas here now. So I think what we'll do is we'll head back to here and we'll get some of this stuff committed up. So, oh, that's the wrong keyboard. So let's go into jolly old Git Kraken and just get some of that all up to the project. So we'll take that because we know we're going to need it. So add, let me just move that keyboard to one side, away. So I should probably go and find that link here and drop this into the comment for this as well. And then we've really made sure that we've got that documented. Yes, so Yannick says it's 310 euros for that 1 terabyte card. It's a lot of wedge. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I considered it, but I couldn't justify it. I mean, it would be fab, wouldn't it? What I've done is in the I'm using these Desk Pi Pro cases, which actually Takov we need to add to the list of cases to support, because this needs a little config change to the bootloader to enable these front USB 2 ports. But this has a regular SATA SSD inside the enclosure. And the cost of one of those cases and the SATA SSD is a fraction of the price of one of those 1 terabyte drives, and that was I think it's a 2 terabyte SATA SSD. It still came out cheaper. So there's that. Right then. So let's see, what other changes have I got queued up here that we need to take a look at. So first is we've got some light DM changes, so we do want to remove that file. This is that's not working yet. Okay. I think I just need to check. I'm going to unstage that for the moment because I just need to check a few things. So first of all, we'll take that little bit there, which is so we'll properly bootstrap. That may require some follow-on work to maybe disable some unnecessary services. And then we've got this here, which is fixing our so that fixes the swap initialization. Is this telling me it's because I have this horrible problem of having to write American English for work, and then I get confused when to use Zs and Us and what have you. Right, okay, so that's looking much better. Let's take a look here. So this is all stuff to do with light DM. I'm not going to get into this too much now because this is basically cosmetic stuff and it's not important right now. So I will just sidestep it. And then this is, these are sort of things that will go away. I'll get back to some of that in a moment, but we want this bit here. Oh, and we do have those two. So actually this is good. So we'll enable this hunk here. We'll leave that alone for the moment. We'll leave that alone for the moment. We'll leave that alone for the moment. In fact, actually, let's take that because this is kind of related. So we will do this. We will take these. We'll stage that one and that one. And I think we had that one as well. Yeah, so we'll stage that file. Why is this? I didn't. And that one we'll leave because that's not part of it. So we'll this is just configure light DM GTK greeter. There's a little bit more to do there, but this is good enough. This is the bit that we'll need to do some work on. And then also this morning we fixed a rounding error in the way the image sizes were calculated. So there we go. That's what we've done so far today. So what this is about here is that Ludo has a mode of operation called Ludo OS, and there is a version of Ludo OS that the Ludo developer makes available, and it's based on OpenELEC. And it has some hard-coded paths and things like that. And one of the assumptions it makes is that Ludo, when it's in Ludo OS mode, runs in the root context. And that's so it can, basically the only reason it needs root is because it enables and disables some systemd units. In fact, I can demonstrate exactly what I mean. If we log out, actually useful to do this to check that it all works correctly as well, rather the selecting of the different sessions works. So We'll now say we want to log into the retro home. And we'll put the password in. And this should bring us into the OS, or Ludo, which at this, and when it loads Ludo full screen like this, it's running in Ludo OS mode. And the reason that you can tell if it's running in Ludo OS mode is that you get this network management capability, and you also get these bits down here to disable and enable SSH, Samba and Bluetooth. When it's not running in Ludo OS mode, these things don't show up. And if I was to toggle one of these, you can see there it's failing. Now, the reason it's failing is that it's not running in the root context at the moment. It's running under the Ludo user account, a regular user account. So what I had done in the past...
Thank you for the follow, John Janos Kovacs 1994.
Well, hello John, and welcome to the stream. Thanks for the follow. Hello to yourself. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks, Luke, for helping out there. I appreciate that. I hadn't spotted that stuff, but thank you very much. As you can see, these facilities can't be toggled when you're running in a regular user account. So what I had done is, in the past, we have this auto login, which I haven't re-enabled yet. In fact, sorry, it's not that at all. If I bring up the code editor, we have this sort of session manager, I suppose. It's not a session manager, that's far too grand a term. It's actually this here. We have something that brings up the Ludo OS session, and it can come up in the root context, and it does these things. And that's so Ludo is running as root and those toggles work. But actually that was a quick and dirty hack just to sort of get things functioning. What I actually want to do is this. Oops, I'm in the wrong virtual screen. Let's find I think somewhere down here in the configure stage where is it? Somewhere down here. You can see all of this sim linking as well between the root account and the Ludo home directory, which is so. This was the workaround. Enable the Ludo account to automatically elevate privileges via sudo, so that it can do what is necessary. But what we're actually going to do at some future date is use policy kit to allow the Ludo user account, the regular user account, to manage systemd units, which will enable it to be able to toggle those services on and off, because behind the scenes what's happening there is it's actually saying start and stop these systemd units. So we'll do away with all of this running Ludo as root and actually give the Ludo user account just the permissions it needs in order to toggle those services. So it doesn't need any elevated permissions to manage the network, because that all happens over dbus. So, and it uses conman for that, as opposed to like network manager, which is common on, Linux desktop. So that's for the future, but that hopefully explains what's going on there. So we'll clear up all of this stuff in the future, where we've got all of this weird sim linking to the root account, and we've got all of this funny stuff going on in here, where we're, after Ludo exits, we set permissions back so that the Ludo user can see its own data and stuff. It's a nasty workaround, and we'll get rid of it. So I think the next thing I want to look at now is this F2. Oops, that's the wrong button entirely. is the F2fs stuff. So let's take a look at this. I put a ticket in here, and it said investigate. Oh, I've got a typo. Let's change that while we're here. I thought this should be trivial, and then it occurred to me, is this going to be compatible with the facility that does the automatic file system expansion? So that's what we're going to dig into now to figure out if this is going to work. So if we come back to our code here and we search for grow, why did it not? Oh, I'm in the wrong file. So this is the package that's being used to grow the root file system. So let's go and take a look at that package on Launchpad and see what it does, see what it supports. Oh, what have I got wrong there? Oh, it's the wrong way around. I think it might be. There we go. Oh, still got it wrong. Okay, here's what I'm looking for. And we're building on top of Jammy. Now it hasn't actually changed. So there are several packages to this. So what have we got here? We've got copy initial Ramdis modules. Okay. Write the network interface file. This is what we're actually looking at. Automatically resize. So I think if we just take a look at this package here, we should be able to learn what's necessary. So here's the deb here. We'll open this with the archive manager and let's see what it's got inside it. Scripts, local bottom, grow root. This doesn't look like it's got FS type. Okay, it does have FS type. We could just try it, couldn't we? The worst that happens is we make an image that doesn't have file system expansion, so it has a few bits and bobs in here. Okay, so let's have a look at scripts here, and oh, is that where I was looking? Books. Okay, well, I've not seen anything to indicate it's file system specific, which is odd. Yes, I am having a moment of deep thought, Paul. You're absolutely right. I'm just thinking, you know, can we just give this a try and see what happens? Failed to unmount. Okay, that's fine. Expected to grow. So growing the partition is one thing. It's actually the file system that I'm interested in. And the only thing I can find here about the file system is this FS type here, which is just mounting it. Okay, well, I tell you what, let's give this a try. So we'll just give it a whirl. So we need to change a couple of things, don't we? We're going to need to... We'll need to sort of fudge this a little bit to test it. Because what I don't want to do is go and edit stuff in the early stages of the build. I want to tack this on at the end. So we'll do that here. We'll come down here. We know that this piece is fine now. And configuration stage, that's probably a good place. In fact, we could even do it in the image and clean stage. So let's do that. So the image stage actually produces the image. So we could... So this is the bit where the image is actually constructed, and here you can see, you know, we're creating an ext4 file system. There's a couple of bits where it will say ext4. So in the clean stage, we'll just do a quick and dirty we'll do that. I think it's F2fs tools. So these are the file system utilities for tools. Yes, that's what we want. Okay, and yeah, for those of you that are maybe new to this stream, this is something we've talked about. F2fs is a file system that's specifically for solid state media, which is why I want to give it a try, because obviously Raspberry Pi, it's either SD cards, USB or SSDs. You could put spinning Rust in a Raspberry Pi, but you know, more often than not, I think the case can be made that it's going to be solid state media. So if we install that there, I wonder if we need to inject F2fs into the initial RAM disk configuration. Probably, but I'm going to assume not. I'm going to hope that it works. So we install that, that does the cleanup, then we get onto the image building stage. So let's see if I can find, because in the past my scripts did have an option to support F2fs. So let's go and have a look at the script for Ubuntu Mate and do a search for F2fs. No, I didn't remove it from there. So let's try this. I should still have a very old version maybe of this script on Launchpad. Let's go here. Oh, I'm not logged in. Let's try if I can remember, because this was from a very old project. Ubuntu Pi Flavor Maker? No. Ubuntu Pi Flavor Maker Dev? No. Flavor without a U? No. Let's just look and see if it's in Ubuntu Mate there, but I don't think it is. I think it might be a project that I've long since got rid of. Let's have a think. Let's have a quick look and see if I've got... Aha! Here we go, I've got an old clone. This is what we want. So let's go and look at build image. You can see here this older version of the scripts, which haven't been touched in a while, they supported all of the flavors. So let's open that in Studio. And here we go, look. So we had this option here of supporting F2fs. So let's look for FS type in here. This should tell me. Yeah, so that's a fairly straightforward change we need to be mindful of. So that needs to change in the command line for the bootloader, and obviously in the FS tab, and we're doing that already. And here we go. This is where the file system creation stuff is different. Okay. I'm just going to hard code this to F2fs for the time being. So let's go and adjust this script. Let's find out where we create the image file system, which is here. And it is root loop, so those names are the same. So we need to change this to be F2fs, oops, 2fs, and here oh, I've done it again, F2fs. And then we do need to change the, is it in the kernel piece? So actually we'll just cheat the system.
Thank you for the follow, MENF1SS.
Wow, what a username. Hello, welcome to the stream. Right then, let's go and just grab that that config file for the bootloader, and we'll drop that in to the image stage so we don't have to rebuild the whole entire thing. I can't see it for looking because it's this file here, isn't it? So I think what we'll do is this. We'll cheat. We'll copy that. Oh, hey! Thank you very much for the raid. Overgrown Carrot, thank you very much. Welcome raiders. Welcome raiders. What have you just been doing on your stream? Right then, let's drop that in. Channel points in tux. That's right. Yes. Yeah, doing well, thank you. Working on a Ubuntu-based OS for the Raspberry Pi for retro game emulation.
Thank you for the follow, D Chateau.
And welcome. This is the Chelsea Cucumber. This is because of a project I work on, which has a green color scheme, and the color green for that particular project is its English name is Chelsea Cucumber. So it's a meme of the channel. Right, I want to go to the image stage, and I want to drop this in as a quick and dirty override. I think we'll drop this in up here. We'll echo that, and we'll change the root file system to F2fs like so, and that needs to go where? To the root of there. So I'm just sort of hacking this a little bit to test a theory. So what we're going to try and do here is enable the F2fs file system instead of ext4, but what I'm concerned about is I don't think the file system expansion will work. So we're just going to quickly test it. And I think that does what I need. So this overwrites our bootloader, or part of the effectively the kernel configuration for the bootloader on the Raspberry Pi. And we're telling it to use the F2fs file system. And then down here we've expressly said our partition is F2fs, and we've replaced the makefs from ext4 to F2fs, and we've done the same there, and that should be it. So let's rebuild that from which stage? We just need to rebuild from the image stage. We may as well do a clean, oh no, we need to do the clean stage. So we need to do clean in image. So those are the two stages we've got enabled. So let's give this a whirl. We've got far too many windows open here. Let's close some of these now. So take your bets. What do you reckon? Chances that this is actually going to work. And I mean, by work, I mean A, boots, and B, actually grows the file system. I think it's less than 50-50. So let's rebuild the image and see how that goes. Right then. Oh, okay, so Yannick's got something interesting here. So Yannick says GitHub Copilot is out of beta and cost $100 per year, but I had a good surprise. I was offered it as an open source project maintainer. What's GitHub Copilot, Yannick? And which open source project got you got you in as a on the free tier? I like free stuff. Can I get free stuff? Thanks for posting the links as well. So D Chateau says, what is F2fs? Let me just bring that up. So F2fs, it stands for the Flash Friendly File System, and it was created by Samsung, and it's a Linux file system that is optimized for solid state media, be that USB thumbsticks, SD cards, micro SD cards, and SSDs. And as this is an OS I'm working on specifically for the Raspberry Pi, I think that it could be a useful addition. Generally speaking, F2fs is seen to offer better longevity of the flash media, and under some workloads, it's has better performance. So that's what we're looking at. Copilot is a thingy that will write code for you. Does it do shell scripts? If it doesn't do shell, I'm not interested. So Yannick doesn't know which project got him in on the free tier, but it says you are eligible because you're involved with open source projects or something. Cool, I'll check my emails. I don't recall seeing such an email. Copilot does everything. Oh, as in all the languages. Okay, well, I'll have to have a look at that later. That sounds interesting. Right, okay, so we've got an image built, so that's good. So we can actually see, here we go, look, we've volume label system boot. I don't want that label. I don't want that label. That needs to be a very different label. So that's not gonna work. That much I can already see. So there, it needs to be a very specific label. So let's see how we set that. Let's look at how. Okay. Oh no, maybe I'm looking at the wrong message there, because that does say writable. So I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Right, well, let's assume it works. The reason that the label is important is because when you look at the kernel configuration for the Raspberry Pi bootloader, we're looking for the root file system specifically on a file system that has the label writable. And this is what enables you to put these images on either USB or SSD or SD card, and it will always boot off the right file system. So we'll assume this is going to work. I expect it to all end in tears, but let's give it a try. So we'll power off the Pi, yank out the SD card, and do this thing. So back into the card reader. Lock that up there. And we'll write this out to that card. And we'll see what happens. There, I saw nothing in my old scripts which did anything to push the F2fs modules into the initial RAM disk for early load or anything like that. So I'm just going to assume that will work. So the worst case scenario is this image doesn't boot at all. The next best is, and thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that, Moonshell. Thank you. Welcome to the stream. The next best outcome is it boots, the flash-friendly file system works, and the system comes up, but the automatic file system expansion doesn't work, and the absolute gold standard is it all comes up and the automatic file system expansion works on the root file system, even with F2fs enabled. So we'll see which it's going to be. So come on, chat, let me know which outcome. Is it going to work 100%? Is it going to work 50%? Or is it going to be a massive fail? Let me know what your predictions are. So D Chateau says, in fact, let's do this. What am I using for that chat pop-up? It's called featured.chat, and that is the URL. So if you go to featured.chat, it's a Twitch integrated thing, and it enables you to pop up and, you know, make them go away again. So if interesting comments and questions you can display on screen like that. So Henrik's going for, it's going to be a mysterious fail. That's hidden option number 4. I didn't present that as an option. We don't want a mysterious fail. I want failures to be known and well done. And thanks, Luke, for filling in on what tools we're using there. And somebody says, am I self-taught? Why does that not come up? There it is. I did go to university, but it was a lifetime ago. I don't think there's much of anything I learned at university that's relevant to what I work on today. So self-taught and some, you know, education through companies I've worked for and stuff like that since leaving university a very, very long time ago. Right, let's get rid of that. All the Raspberry Pi stuff is self-taught, for example. Right, we're going to assume that's fine. Oh, someone's predicting it's going to be a fireball. Takeoff thinks it's going to be a miserable fail. So let's see how we go. This is the Raspberry Pi. We'll plug in the SD card and we will turn the Raspberry Pi on. So the first thing we're looking for is, does the bootloader come up? Well, that's a good start. The next thing is, does it actually start to boot the OS? Does it find the operating system and boot? I really need to get Plymouth integrated so I get a better indication as to how things are going. That's a lot of black screen right there, isn't it? Oh, there we go. Failed. There we go. It failed to grow the file system. So there we go. There's the answer to our question. So that's an interesting message because that specifically failed to grow the file system. So we could go and look at that. I wonder if we could monkey patch that to add F2fs support. Yep, Yannick. Oops. Oops. There we go. There we go. So kind of a fail. Yeah. It did not work. But that seems reasonable. Can I even log in? Let's try. Yannick's breaking out all of the channel point redemptions to demonstrate the massive fail. What have we got here? Can't. Oh, what's that? No space left. Yeah. Okay. So look, it's properly bad because the file system expansion didn't work, and now we've got a because what it did do. Because the file system expansion has failed, but what did work, because we fixed it like a few minutes ago, is we fixed it automatically provisioning a 1 GB swap file. So we have now exhausted the space on the device. So if we go and look here, we should see that we've got a swap file kicking around. There it is, and it's not quite a gigabyte because it clearly ran out of space. And if we do a df, yep, we can see we've completely exhausted the space in the root file system. So it turns out Henrik was correct. It is a mysterious. It was a mysterious failure mode. So it was secret option number 4. Oh well, at least we know. So that will require some more investigation. So let's just do a little bit of additional research to find out. That's the wrong screen. Let's go and find out, does F2fs support file system expansion? Because it obviously needs to be a feature of the file system. So let's go and look at that quickly. Grow. Oh, the Arch Wiki. That must be the resize F2fs. Aha. Well, there we go. That tells us what we need to know. You want to see some Gitkraken, do you? Here we go. There we go. There's some glorious Gitkraken is the business. Can't get enough of Gitkraken. So there we go. We have an answer at least. The file system itself can be resized. I imagine it will say it can only be grown because that's typical in most of these. But that's fine. That's all we would want to do. So I think what we'll do is we'll obviously roll back those changes that implement F2fs. We'll update the ticket to say the GrowFS piece doesn't support F2fs, but if it could be patched to add that support, this may be a viable option. So let's just update this accordingly. What was it called? It was called Resize F2. So it does have a Resize F2fs utility, but this is not integrated into the GrowFS. Partition and file system. so we can look into further investigation. See if resize of S2 can be integrated. Grow FS. And I will actually need to go and find the actual code for that utility. So at least we've got an answer to this question. And now what we'll do is we'll just go and pop those changes out so that we can get back to a working state. I may reintroduce the if set the file system next for so F2fs will drop all of that out.
Thank you for the follow, Vitalkanev.
Hi Vitalkanev, if that's how it's pronounced. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping by. So I think we're back at where we were now. So it's all back to using X4. Let's just check what Gitkraken has to say about that. Yeah, the only changes are the unstaged changes that we were discussing earlier. Okay. Check this here. Right. We do at least know that now. I'm pretty happy. Let's see. Was there anything else? Add. Yeah, that I'm going to leave there because I need to speak to Vivaldi. That's for another day. That's for another day. We've looked at that. Pipe wire. I know. We'll do that on Friday. So I'm pretty happy with how that's gone today. We've fixed a few bugs. Let's just make sure that's all pushed up. It's not pushed up, so let's push all of the fixes from this morning up. There we go. So Takov, who's in chat, is going to be helping with this, doing some case enablement stuff. He's already been working on bits and pieces for that. So I think Friday we'll take a look at getting Pipewire to go, and we'll see if we can drop all of the root context stuff and have everything running under a single user account, a regular user account, with just some policy kit permission elevations to enable the Ludo user to toggle those systemd units to manage Wi-Fi and all of that stuff. Not Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and Samba and SSH. That'd be cool to get all of that done. And I think the other thing I want to do, in fact, let's add a GitHub issue for it now. In fact, let's even go and find the correct reference. So, I think it's a Desk iPro case, I think is what they're called. Yes, this is the case that I'm using here. If you're looking for a really nice case for your Raspberry Pi, I can't recommend these highly enough. I'm not sponsored, I'm just a happy customer. These are terrific, and there is some nuance though. Somewhere here, hiding in here somewhere, there'll be something about how to enable. Look at this, check this out, look at this. They even reference my OS, isn't that lovely? Somewhere hiding down here we'll find what we need to do to enable the front USB ports. These come through some internal routing, and it needs config change in the bootloader to actually enable those. So I'm going to copy that link, and we're going to add an issue to say add support for enable front USB ports on the desk iPro V2 case. Okay. Yes, Yannick. That you make a good point. So yes, do head over to wimpysworld.io/discord. All of the projects that we work on here, we've got dedicated channels for, and we've got a bunch of desktop Linux enthusiasts and developers and users. I think there's over 2,500 people there now. So if you like a bit of Linux in your life, you're among friends, join that Discord. And if you're looking for projects to get involved with, we've got some interesting ones over there, not just this one. This is the one that I'm working on this week and probably next week as well, because I really want to make some progress on this one and I've got some time to dedicate to it. So this is the one that's currently being worked on, but we'll circle back to QuickMU and deb-get, which is also being used in this project, probably next week as well, to put out new releases of both of those. Okay, I'm sorry if I've missed a lot of chat today. I really needed to sort of just get my brain in gear there. So thank you to the moderators for cleaning up the spam and what have you earlier. I really appreciate you helping out with that. I don't see that stuff. It's difficult to spot when it's scrolling by. Right then, so let's go and have a little look over here. Ooh, okay. Okay, we will go and head to, let's just refresh. Where is it? Where is it? There. So we're going to go and visit someone I have not been to for a while. So Takov says, let's just have a look here. If you have time to take a look at my test Pi GPIO driver, I was thinking of rewriting it in a way to specify class where we can define GPIO numbers assigned to keep. Right, okay. I will definitely take a look at what you've been working on, Takov. Thank you for investing the time you have in that. It will be a huge help. And I think probably next week we can get to the point where we can start to do some of these case enablements and get into the GPIO driver stuff. And yeah, I've got several of them here. I think I might have to collect up the ones I've got at home and get them all here, because this is the best place to work on that stuff. But yeah, I'll take a look for sure. Thank you. And what was this here? That's my plan, so we can get any GPIO gamepad port by editing the class. That would be great. Yeah, I've got the quick hacks I did on those GPIO drivers were basically prove that they worked, but as you will have seen, they're 99% the same with just like pin header changes, so it would be nice to have a more elegant solution for that. And we've got a question here from, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Tilt 3D, is that maybe? So does Gitkraken basically allow you to use Git but from an easier to use user interface? Yes, it's exactly what it does. Let's flip over to it. So I've been using Gitkraken for several years now, and I absolutely love it. So this is the project I'm working on at the moment, and you can see here these are the outstanding changes that I've got, and you know, I don't have to submit all of these changes in a pull, you know, in a commit. If I just wanted to add these changes here, I could do them line by line. And now I've got a discrete, you know, thing in here that I can commit as add sudoer. Now, I'm not going to actually make this change. I'm just demonstrating how it works. But yeah, it is not open source. It is free to use if you're working on open source projects. I pay for it. I think it's excellent value for money. I can't imagine working without it. And in fact, I turn off all of the Git integrations in Visual Studio Code and just do Git in Gitkraken. That said, Gitkraken are now the people behind the Git Lens plugin for VS Code as well. So if you prefer to stay inside your code editor, then take a look at the Git Lens extension for Visual Studio Code. Right, I'm going to unstage that because I don't want to make that change at the moment, because ideally we can get rid of all of that root context stuff. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. It's definitely worth a look. You can try it out for free, in air quotes, to see if you like it. I've got a feeling my annual license is, I'm gonna say $40. I'm not certain, but I think it's about $40. In fact, hang on a minute. Did I do one of these? No, not yet. I thought I might have had a thing where it's got a referral code with a discount, but I haven't put that into the Streambot bot yet, but maybe I'll do that later, because occasionally I get asked about Gitkraken. I really like it. Try it out though. You can download it for free and give it a try. Right then, so we are going to raid someone I've not been to see for ages. So let's do this thing. So we're going to head over to Pirate Software, who's an indie game developer, and today, what are they working on? Is it Hearthstone today? It might be, but they're very interesting. So that's where we're going to go. So thank you all for coming, everyone. I will be back on Friday. We'll definitely look at Pipewire, and we'll see what other stuff we can get done in order to maybe make an image that we can actually stick up and people can download and have a play with. So thanks very much for coming, everyone, and hopefully I'll see you on Friday. It is indeed time to change channels.